Hi, this is Dr. John McGrail. Welcome back to A Better You in a Minute or Two. Before I start, a quick thanks to everyone who's reached out and who is reaching out with your inputs, your feedback and suggestions, requests for future episodes, and your encouragement. After we cover a few basics, as I mentioned in the beginning, it's going to be that interaction that makes this series topical, dynamic, and relevant. And that's what I want it to be. Today, we're going to pick up where we left off and talk a little bit more about the structure and function of the mind for a very simple reason. This entire miracle, this experience we call life, is processed completely through our mind. So the more we understand about how it's put together and how it works, the more we can make it work and process the way we want it to. Now remember the jet airplane. The pilots can fly the plane wherever they want to go. That would correspond to the conscious mind. The autopilot, the computer, will fly the plane just as well, if not better, but only where it's programmed to go. And you may remember that I mentioned the conscious mind is about 10% of the real estate and the subconscious mind is about 90%. I've got a new little metaphor today to illustrate that better than my head, my lunch bucket, which was filled with a yummy, yummy salad a little while ago. I ate it for lunch. But this is a real good illustration just to sort of reinforce that concept. The lid would represent the conscious mind, or the pilot. Here's where we find logic, reasoning, free will, our ability to communicate. We can go wherever we want. The bin represents the subconscious, computer, or autopilot. 90% of the real estate, much more massive, much more power, can process much more information much more quickly, but only what it's programmed to do. Now, the computers we use in everyday life work on a very simple binary system. Everything a computer does is based on zeros and ones. That's it. That's simple. The human computer works very much the same way, on a very simple binary system. But that system isn't math. It's based on positive or negative, contrast. Everything we think, do, say, and feel in the human experience is evaluated in terms of contrast. Is this good or bad, happy or sad, pain or pleasure, love or hate, peace or war, yin or yang? Contrast. Now the subconscious computer, which gets programmed at a very early age, as you may remember from our last episode, also never gets past about 3 years of age. And like any 3-year-old, it'll believe whatever it's told. So you can teach it that 2 plus 2 is 5, and if you reinforce it enough with repetition or significance, 2 plus 2 is 5, 2 plus 2 is 5, that will become its program. You're a bum, you're worthless, you're never going to amount to anything. Okay? Or you can teach it 2 plus 2 is 4. You're beautiful, you're intelligent, you can do anything you want, you can accomplish anything with repetition and reinforcement, which is how we reinforce our internal programming. That becomes its program. And of course, by the time we're 8 years old, we have millions of these positives and negatives that make up our behavioral database. I call it the engine of behavior. Now, in modern Western culture, we have learned and have become singularly talented at focusing on what I like to call the dark side of the contrast equation. We tend to spend more of our time thinking about the negatives: insufficiency, lack, fear, negativity, gloom, and doom. Just turn on the news for 10 minutes and you'll see what I mean. But the cool part is that the pilot, the conscious mind, even if it's focusing on the negative side of the coin, because every issue, every experience has two sides. A negative experience also has a positive side, and a positive experience also has a negative side. There's always contrast involved. The conscious pilot can decide anytime it wants to flip the coin and focus on the positive side. And once that happens, that enables the reprogramming of the subconscious autopilot. That's when we can bring in the tools, techniques, methods, and tradition. I call it my synthesis process, to make that reprogramming happen quickly and profoundly. And I love to help people do that. But it always starts with the conscious choice to flip the coin or to go to New York instead of Denver. And once both parts of the mind are aligned, as we talked about last time, it's a smooth flight. So next time, we're going to talk about the incredible power of both conscious and unconscious choice. And also, we're going to dive inside the mind and talk about the interface between the lid and the bin. The interface between the conscious and subconscious. Because that's where the resistance comes from, and that's the part of the mind that synthesis works with to reprogram that internal database. Until next time, I'd like you to think about the choices you're making, and remember, it's all about a better you.